Fine. I clenched my fists tightly, my gaze icy cold. Even though I'd never actually taken a divine strike before, even without confidence, survival instinct made me stand tall, staring her down. As I readied to muster all my strength, the dragon lady stepped forward. She faced the demon lord and spoke, "I'll go first." I was about to protest, but she turned back and said firmly, "I am your advisor. There are some things you must listen to me on." But I was anxious. Translator's note: Long Shiba seems to be the name of the protagonist, often translated as Dragon 18 in English interpretations. "Wait for me," she said firmly. I sighed helplessly. She approached the 9 yuan demon lord without the slightest hint of fear. Once the ruler of the river, she was still formidable even now. Her aura began to intensify, and I tensed up. The 9 yuan demon lord glanced at her. "Do you remember the rules?" "Yes. Many have played my game, yet none have withstood even a single finger from me," the demon lord smirked, raising one finger. "If you can withstand a single touch of my finger, I concede." No sooner had the words left his lips than she slowly extended her own finger. In an instant, a terrifying vortex spiraled from her fingertip, black energy churning and twisting. I watched, my heart pounding. The power was too overwhelming, beyond words. Rumble. The ground quaked endlessly as the demon lord's finger drew closer. The dragon lady of the Yangtze didn't dodge nor draw upon any magical artifact. She met it head-on, her body, her hands, bare against the strike. Golden dragon scales swiftly appeared on her hand as she formed a fist. In that instant, one fist, one finger collided. Boom! At that moment, two blinding flashes of energy erupted, colliding fiercely before my eyes. The glow surrounding the dragon lady fractured, then shattered in an instant. Thud. I saw it. The 9 yuan demon lord's finger pierced through her hardened dragon scales, just as a blade might pierce flesh. At the same time, a violent gust of wind slammed her backward into the wall, embedding her into a massive crater. Though his finger struck her hand, the force of it coursed through her entire body. Was this the power of an immortal? Drip. Drip. Golden blood trickled from the wound on her hand, her face growing pale rapidly. Her throat moved involuntarily. It was clear the blood inside her churned fiercely. An ordinary person would have long since vomited blood, yet she managed to hold it down. Not retreating, not vomiting, not even a trace of pain showing on her face. She bore the strike with utter composure, exuding the aura of a dragon king. It was awe-inspiring. Do you know? Even I, wielding a bamboo sword infused with thunder, couldn't so much as scratch her dragon scales before. Yet here, against the demon lord, her scales were pierced with just one finger? Unbelievable power. Does this count as having endured it? Her voice trembled slightly, she was clearly just holding on. It made me ache to hear it. Impressive. You're the first to survive my finger. I'll let you live. The demon lord withdrew his finger. Blood streamed relentlessly from her injured hand. Her arm trembled slightly. She had suffered a heavy blow. I let out a long sigh of relief. If she survived that strike, it meant she would live. And that was enough. Even though she had only a month left to live, that single month suddenly felt immeasurably precious. I hoped she could make the most of it to make up for the regrets of a lifetime. Now, it was my turn. My body wasn't as strong as the dragon lady's. I had no dragon scales for protection, but I would still endure it. Even if it cost me an arm, I had to survive. I was ready. If it came to me taking a strike, I'd give it my all, channel all my strength and life force into one hand and hold nothing back. I, Long Shiba, Dragon 18, was not afraid of anything. Your turn, boy. Step forward. The 9 yuan demon lord's eyes locked onto me. I strode forward, resolute and unyielding. Even if this was a march to the execution block, I wouldn't falter. Just then, the dragon lady's voice cut through the air. Demon lord, let me take this blow for him. I froze, utterly shocked. She wanted to shield me from this strike? Why? Confused and unsure, I immediately tried to refuse. Dragon lady, Silence, she interrupted sharply. But, shut up. Dragon lady, I just wanna say, be good. That single word, soft, sweet, and tender as candy, escaped her lips, momentarily dispelling the fierce strength of her personality. It was a rare and delicate thing to hear from her. Before I could even process it, her face turned serious. Demon lord, begin. A weight sank in my chest. She had already been injured, now she wanted to endure a strike meant for me? It was too dangerous. There was a very real chance she could lose that beautiful hand of hers. A lost hand for someone like her, a dragon lady, would be an unspeakable regret. You want to take his strike in his place? The demon lord's voice was tinged with an eerie amusement. Yes. She nodded firmly. This is my game, not yours to dictate. I'm fair, you've already endured one strike. You can leave, but he still owes me his turn, the Demon Lord replied, shaking his head. Then what if I insist on taking it for him? Her gaze grew sharp and intense. The Demon Lord gave her a once-over. Insist? No one has ever dared speak to me like this and lived to tell the tale. Those who've tried have ended up with crushed skulls. But I must admit, you've got nerve. His excitement was palpable. Looks like this is about to get interesting. Fine. Since you insist on taking it, the rules will change. I stood there, stunned. Was he trying to take advantage of the situation? Rage bubbled inside me. The Dragon Lady, however, remained calm. Whatever the rules, speak them. Good. I've killed countless over the years, yet none have shown such composure before me. You'll be the first. 5 strikes. Endure all 5, and I'll allow you to take his place. At those words, my heart sank. Could the Dragon Lady even withstand all 5? Begin, she said simply. She was already prepared. Zoom. The Demon Lord vanished in a flash. I tried to track him but was startled by a sudden bang. The Dragon Lady was driven back a step, her injured hand trembling as blood gushed from the dented dragon scales. In that moment, he delivered the first strike and she endured it. Her face paled to a dark red. Though it seemed like she wanted to cough up blood, she suppressed it with force alone. I was dumbstruck. Boom! Before I could react, the Demon Lord struck again, his movements lightning fast. A blur flashed, and the Dragon Lady staggered 2 steps back. Her arm quaked violently, the golden scales further deformed, blood flowing freely. The blood pooled on the ground, gleaming like lonely golden roses, stunning, yet heart-wrenching. Cough, the Dragon Lady instinctively tried to cough but immediately covered her mouth, unwilling to let the blood spill out. Whoosh! This is the 49th out of 52 sections of content. Please adhere to the logical flow and maintain the original paragraph structure, line breaks, and overall layout. Here is the processed result. The 3rd strike followed immediately. She stepped back twice in succession, nearly losing her footing on the 3rd step before forcibly steadying herself, one foot raised but not touching the ground. Her arm trembled violently, the wound deepening, with blood gushing out unabated. Yet, she didn't even furrow her brows, biting her lip instead. She resisted the urge to cough, suppressing any inclination to spit blood. The ground beneath her bore not only crimson blood but also glistening sweat that slid down her forehead, merging with the blood to form a resolute and poignant flower, beautiful yet heart-wrenching to behold. I could clearly sense that the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden's aura was sharply dwindling. She had already endured 4 consecutive strikes from the 9-yuan demon sovereign. Her resistance was purely physical, she was on the verge of collapse. I noticed the fatigue and dullness in her eyes. Surviving 4 of my direct strikes, you're the first. But here's your final chance. If you take one more, you're guaranteed to die. Regretting it now? I'll let him take just 1 strike if you wish. The demon sovereign sneered. Bring it on, responded the Dragon Maiden with steadfast resolve. Fine then. I don't spare lives on my watch. Rest in peace. As soon as she uttered these words, her hand rose once more. This time, her 5 fingers clenched into a fist, a motion as simple as forming a delicate, porcelain-like punch. Yet, it concealed an unfathomable and terrifying force. Boom! The instant her punch launched, the air split apart, creating a massive 10-meter-wide vortex. Long before her fist fully descended, the overwhelming energy it carried surged forward. A frightening aura rapidly enveloped the space. My heart pounded in turmoil. This punch could shatter boulders, annihilate steel, and wreak havoc on the world itself. A single, fatal strike. The fist relentlessly bore down toward the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden, seemingly poised to reduce her to fragments the very next second. The Dragon Maiden could not falter, she mustn't. I refused to idly stand by and watch her perish before my eyes. Taking a deep breath, I gathered every ounce of my cultivation, ready to intercept this devastating blow. Facing death head-on, the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden showed no fear. Her heavily bloodied hand clenched into a fist, determined to withstand the imminent devastation with her divine dragon form. I couldn't fathom the spectacular chaos that would erupt when their fists collided. But the outcome was clear: the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden would die, while the 9-yuan demon sovereign would remain unscathed. As I inched closer to the demon sovereign, a sudden flash of insight illuminated my mind. I finally realized the source of that eerie familiarity I had sensed earlier. Shock coursed through me like lightning. Just as the demon sovereign's fist was about to land upon the Dragon Maiden, a howling wind abruptly ceased. She had suddenly halted her strike, withdrawing her hand instead of delivering the 4th blow. Even the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden was momentarily stunned by this unexpected turn. Turning her head toward me, she asked, "Why are you looking at me with that expression?" I'm satisfied with your answer, so I'll let this one slide, the Demon Sovereign said coldly. The Dragon Maiden also turned her gaze toward me. "You're not the real 9 Demon Sovereign." I couldn't suppress the shout that erupted from me. The Dragon Maiden was struck dumb with astonishment. The Demon Sovereign hesitated as well, the sound of earlier combat vanishing into nothingness. "Oh," her eyes zeroed in on me. "And how would you know if I'm not the real one?" "From the moment I first saw you, there was a peculiar familiarity I couldn't place. Throughout my years, I've hardly encountered many women, yet in that fleeting instant, I knew I had seen you before." I fixed my gaze on her, unwavering. The Yangtze River Dragon Maiden, puzzled, interjected, "You've met her before? Dragon Maiden, have you forgotten? You saw her yourself just moments ago." I hinted at her. The Dragon Maiden faltered, her eyes returning to focus on the Demon Sovereign, a flicker of doubt crossing her face. "Oh, I see now. It does seem you've both seen me before," the Demon Sovereign acknowledged with an unsettling nod. One brushstroke, one stroke of ink born from death itself, she reiterated the cryptic words she had uttered earlier. Fixing my gaze on her, I pressed on, "You revealed your true self the moment you appeared. I just didn't have the clarity to piece it together then." "Smart. It seems your answer has pleased me as well. Though, this game is becoming tiresome." She withdrew her punch, true to her word. Could it be, the real Demon Sovereign isn't even here anymore? I leveled an accusatory look at her. Had Zhang Baiyue's formation not been breached by the Orthodox sects years ago, the 9 Demon Sovereign could have remained trapped. But now, with only a fragile barrier barely containing the dark energy, restraining a once divine figure seemed impossible. The real Demon Sovereign had likely escaped long ago. The Dragon Maiden's gaze never left her. "You're right here, yet you're not the 9 Demon Sovereign," she stated, calm but chilling. "You are the Demon Sovereign, yet you are not," I declared firmly. The Dragon Maiden's confusion deepened as she glanced between us. "You know too much. For that alone, you must die." Her cold glare focused on me. My heart sank. "Fine. Today, let's pretend I know nothing. Dragon Maiden, let's get out of here," I snapped. The Dragon Maiden snapped back to reality, and just as we prepared to leave, she suddenly materialized in front of us. My brow furrowed. "You two are quite entertaining. Let you leave? Who will be here to amuse me afterward?" she mused calmly. "No, you'll both stay put." "But you just said you'd let us go," I retorted sharply, my gaze locking with hers. "I did," she said, her tone nonchalant. "But this is my game. Ultimate authority lies with me. I'm adding a new rule: anyone who dares leave dies." A sinking dread set in my chest. "You're worried we'd expose what we saw here, aren't you?" I cut to the chase. "I am," she admitted without hesitation. "So, the true 9 Demon Sovereign already escaped?" My anger simmered yet was held in check. Clearly, the real Demon Sovereign had orchestrated this ruse to create the illusion of still being confined, when in reality, she had long since fled, leaving her proxy behind to continue the bloodshed. But where could the real Demon Sovereign have gone undetected for all these years? "Correct," she confirmed bluntly. "So if I promise silence, could we leave?" I asked, cautiously seizing the chance. It was evident she had spared the Dragon Maiden earlier during the near-fatal fourth strike. The fact that she hadn't dealt a lethal blow or shown true killing intent left me with a glimmer of hope. "Play a game with me. If you win, you walk free. If not, you obediently stay," she countered. "What game?" I met her challenge without hesitation. "You've spent all these years alone, you must be bored out of your mind." Her interest piqued immediately. "What game?" "You guess. How long can she live?" I pointed to the Dragon Maiden beside me. "How long can she live?" she parroted, slightly taken aback. "I've always enjoyed guessing games." I held back earlier, and with her cultivation, she could ascend and achieve immortality, or, short of that, live at least 1,000 years. Am I correct? Still gripping onto scraps of hope, she looked to me. "Wrong." I shook my head. Her gaze fell back on the Dragon Maiden. "You're lying. She can definitely live for 1,000 years. This is segment 50 seconds. Please adhere to the original structure, formatting, and layout while processing the content. Below is the processed result based on the provided text. Didn't notice? She can't last a month, I reminded. A month? Impossible. She sniffed the air. Why does she carry such a heavy aura of death? Was she being hunted? The Yangtze River Dragoness nodded. Not hunted, but someone plans to chop off my head in a month. Chop off your head? Why? She was puzzled. The Yangtze River Dragoness explained the situation. She froze. Then there's no way she'll survive the month. The Yangtze River Dragoness's gaze darkened. So, you lost, I said, looking at her. This doesn't count. One more time, she insisted. I ignored her, taking the Yangtze River Dragoness by the arm and heading outward. Don't leave. I want another round. She reappeared, blocking our way. I said, a deal's a deal, I said evenly. I lost, but this game is mine. I get to decide the rules. I want another try, she protested. Sorry, I proposed the game. The interpretation is mine. I stared her down. She was stunned. I guided the Yangtze River Dragoness further away. This time, she didn't block us, and I sighed in relief. Just as we were walking out, she suddenly said, she's been gone a long time, hasn't returned. I can't leave here either. I misheard you. Go find her for me, will you? I shook my head. I don't have the time. Why not? I'm about to lose my head too. She was shocked. You too? Then if both of you die, who's left to play with me? I turned and asked, why was Jiu Yuan Demon Lord banished to the mortal world? She shook her head. How would I know? You know who I am, how could I? I didn't press further. Jiu Yuan Demon Lord piqued my curiosity, but I had no time for that now. Abruptly, she said, stay with me for a little while longer. If you do, I'll teach you how not to lose your head to the gods. Her words left both the Yangtze River Dragoness and me dumbstruck. She likely had a way, but the Yangtze River Dragoness couldn't afford to learn it. Her accumulated karma throughout the years would still carry over after reincarnation. Should she resist, all that would be lost? I didn't respond. Instead, a question about the 1,000-year fox demon and the Yellow River Dragon King crossed my mind. The Yangtze River Dragoness glanced back. I want to hear her out. I tugged at her arm, but she murmured, who is she, really? I can't figure it out. Doesn't she look familiar to you? I asked. A little, yeah. Feel like you've seen her somewhere before? Yeah. Then take out the painting you just received. You'll know who she is once you look at it, I said. The Yangtze River Dragoness hesitated but brought out the painting. As she unfurled it and saw the figure of a woman depicted from behind, her eyes lit up, and realization dawned. Now do you understand? I asked. Yes, I do. The painting depicted the tall and slender back of a woman. My earlier sense of familiarity stemmed from this very painting. I was certain the person before me wasn't the Jiu Yuan Demon Lord herself but the figure from the painting brought to life. I felt a jolt of shock. For someone drawn in a painting to be this formidable, I couldn't even imagine how powerful the actual Jiu Yuan Demon Lord could be. Why doesn't the Demon Lord draw herself more companions to play with you? The Yangtze River Dragoness asked. Even if she did, I'd end up killing them. I can only have one, the figure from the painting replied. The Yangtze River Dragoness was at a loss for words. I asked her about the 1,000-year fox demon. She didn't hesitate to answer, she fled. I sighed in relief. She must have returned to her lair. Her celestial tribulation was likely approaching. And what about that dragon? I pressed. Last time I saw him, his fate was uncertain. He fled too, the figure said. I frowned, my heart sinking. You beat him up that badly, and he still managed to escape? If she had killed him, it might have eased the 18 years of torment on my mind. Even though I couldn't do it myself, it would have sufficed to set my heart at rest. He's unusual, not an ordinary dragon, the figure remarked. Unusual? How so? I was astonished. He fled in that direction, she said, pointing. I followed the direction she indicated. No way he'd dare return to the Yellow River Dragon Palace. So, where would he head off to? I couldn't help but worry about Longshiyu. She knew about her father's looming execution. How would she react? Knowing her own doom was near, how would she react? Something felt off, and I feared it had to do with Longshiyu. All three of you are in deep trouble. Are you planning to team up? The figure asked. Team up? Ha! I laughed. Even if he got on his knees to beg, I wouldn't join forces with him. Frankly, I'd rather team up with a dog than with him. If he dared approach me, I'd kill him myself. Steadying myself, I began asking her about Master Zhang Jiuxian, describing him in detail. The figure paused. Never met him. Are you sure? I was surprised. Of course. I asked if she'd encountered the leader of the dragon group. No. Really? Are you certain? I was dumbfounded. Could I have guessed wrong? Had neither Zhang Jiuxian nor the dragon group leader ever been here? I know every being that enters this place. Even a fly wouldn't escape my detection. The figure nodded confidently, but then suddenly turned her head. She vanished in an instant, leaving the two of us speechless. 10 seconds later, she reappeared, her calm demeanor cracked. Someone just came in, and I didn't notice? The Yangtze River Dragoness's expression shifted. No wonder I couldn't trace Jiang Jiuxian. It seemed that even this figure's perception had been bypassed. Where are they now? I asked urgently. This baffled me. What measures had Jiang Jiuxian and the Dragon Group leader employed to achieve this? They not only avoided detection but made it seem like this space was a free-for-all. They've left already, the figure said. Both the Yangtze River Dragoness and I turned ashen. They didn't bring anything in with them. What were they here for? How did they even get in? I couldn't sense a thing. This is so strange. The figure seemed genuinely puzzled. I suggested they'd come to repair the array. This array can only be repaired by the person who initially set it up. No one else could do it, the figure declared. How strong is the master you speak of? The figure asked. I detailed Jiang Jiuxian's abilities. She seemed doubtful. Even a 1,000-year ghost immortal couldn't sneak past me. No, your master is far more complex than you realize. I was taken aback. Really? Absolutely. The figure nodded. How on earth did they evade my perception? Has my master been here before? I speculated. Perhaps prior familiarity with this place allowed him to slip through undetected. But I've never seen your master, she replied. At least I was reassured. For now, Jiang Jiuxian seemed safe. But where had she gone after leaving here? This is the content of paragraph 51. 50 seconds. Based on context and your instruction to maintain original structure, here's the result in English while preserving paragraphing, line breaks, and overall layout. I was anxious, eager to see her right away, and ready to leave this place. But the figure in the painting was unwilling. Stay and keep me company. I'll teach you how to handle the celestial beings who want to behead you. Deal? I felt helpless. My strength was lacking, and simply knowing the methods wouldn't be enough. A month later, the first thing I planned to do was to find Guomei. By now, she had probably harvested all my dragon's blood. It was time to take back what was mine. I refused the painting figure's offer, but she blocked my way. Stay with me for a day, and I'll teach you the body immobilization technique. It can stop celestial beings in their tracks. Interested? My expression changed drastically. Even the Long River Dragon Maiden's eyes brightened. So, her earlier claim about avoiding being beheaded by celestial beings, it relied on this immobilization technique? Can it really immobilize celestial beings? Frankly, I doubted I could use such a technique. While I believed in its mystical nature, as a mere human, it would likely be almost impossible for me to perform. Even if I could somehow pull it off, its effectiveness would be significantly weakened, right? That's why you need to keep me company, the figure in the painting said. I asked her to explain how the body immobilization technique worked. It's simple. The technique involves a spell combined with energy. Since you're immortal, it's harder for you, and the effect won't be as strong. But it should at least slow a celestial being's movements, she explained. That immediately piqued my interest. Teach me now. If I could truly master this technique, my chances of taking down a celestial being in a month would improve noticeably. It would be a solid ace up my sleeve. You need to spend a day with me first, she said. Teach me first, I urged. This is my domain, you play by my rules, she insisted. Teach me first, and once I've learned it, I'll come back and keep you company for 10 days or even a whole month. Fair enough? I was running out of time. If only I had a duplication technique to split myself in two. She was clearly taking advantage of me here. Then make it 3 months, and I'll teach you, she said. Deal. I agreed without hesitation. If I could survive this calamity, 3 years wouldn't even be a problem. Without unnecessary chatter, she began reciting the incantation and explaining the essentials of the technique. I was taken aback, standing there stunned. Even the Long River Dragon Maiden listened intently. You'll have to adapt this immobilization technique since you lack magical energy, she elaborated. You can only rely on chi and precise pressure point strikes to immobilize a celestial being. I suddenly understood it was basically acupuncture or hitting pressure points, but for celestial beings. Her explanations were clear as day, and she seemed very serious about teaching. It was an unexpected bonus from entering this place. However, your abilities are still too weak. You won't be able to get within 5 meters of a celestial being, which means you can't even activate the technique, she continued. I immediately felt stumped. Who could just waltz right up to a celestial being so easily? Also, at your current level, you can only use it twice, no more. Remember that, she added, leaving me dumbfounded. I made a mental note of this limitation, realizing I'd have to use it wisely. Once I used it up, my vitality would be severely depleted, rendering me incapable of resisting. That kind of vulnerability was fraught with danger. Still, after learning the essentials, I planned to practice as much as possible. I didn't foresee any major issues. Of course, if you become a full-fledged divine dragon, that changes things, she said, clearly aware of my half-dragon identity. You know the fastest way to become a divine dragon, but don't force others into it, she remarked, glancing deliberately at the long river dragon maiden, hinting at something. I smiled wryly. Forcing her wasn't even an option, it was far too dangerous. If she retaliated, I'd be done for even before a celestial being could behead me. Any other questions? The figure in the painting asked responsibly. I said no. Are you sure? This immobilization technique isn't easy to learn. You only have a month, don't waste any time. I nodded. I honestly don't even know why I'm teaching you this. Your presence is downright irritating. I was this close to crushing you earlier, she scoffed. I smiled bitterly. Why was she so hostile toward me? But she didn't elaborate further. Seeing she had nothing more to say, I decided to play along and join her for a brief gambling game, deliberately letting her win. She saw right through me and got upset. No fun. If you're going to humor me like this while we play, I really will crush you. I smiled wryly again. Afterward, we set a time for our next meeting, and I left together with the long river dragon maiden. Next time, don't undo my spells, the figure in the painting warned. The dragon maiden and I paused, understanding she was referring to the last incident where the dragon maiden had disrupted her magic. I'll be waiting. If you don't come and keep me company within 3 months, I'll come find you myself and take your life, she threatened. I turned back to her and replied, if I die, no one will be there to spend those 3 months with you. Fair warning, don't keep me waiting. This is rare for me, letting someone walk away alive. Looks like next time, I'll have to kill a few extras to make up for it. If not, there will always be others to keep me company. As those words left her lips, the figure from the painting vanished in a flash, truly allowing us to leave. Oh, and if you see the demon lord, tell her to come back. I miss her, her voice lingered in the air. I let out a sigh. Where on earth would I find her? The mighty demon lord of 9 abysses, was it even remotely possible she'd come to me on her own? For now, I'll let you go. That's the cause, the effect will soon reveal itself. You'll see the demon lord eventually. The figure in the painting continued, I'm curious how this Jiang Jiushuan managed to get in here? This is my home, not hers. How can she freely come and go right under my nose? Finally, we emerged from the passage and breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly, the long river dragon maiden coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood, her forehead covered in sweat, face pale. I then remembered she had endured 4 direct attacks from the figure in the painting. It must have taken a great toll on her. I quickly caught her, worried she might faint from exhaustion. Dragon maiden, are you okay? I asked. Her eyelids grew heavy, but she struggled to stay conscious. I reassured her, don't worry. You'll be fine. I need to leave this place, she said weakly. I'll take you out, I assured her. You can't fly. Without hesitation, I lifted her into my arms. I'll carry you out. She was tall but surprisingly light, making it easy to carry her. Her waist was soft to the touch, and her figure exceptional. She froze for a moment. Afraid I'll take advantage of you? I jested. She didn't reply. Instead, she said, don't go back toward the river. Why not? I asked, intending to take her to the treasure vault for recovery. With her severe injuries, she'd need at least 10 days to fully heal. The lightning mother mentioned it, my father is looking for me, and I don't want to see him. I paused, recalling how the lightning mother had warned her before the Yellow River Dragon King's tribulation. It seemed her father wasn't a good man. Perhaps he had wanted a son but got her instead, leading to this estrangement. Alright, I'll find a quiet place for you to recover, I replied. End of translation. She pointed in a direction, saying there was a house she hadn't lived in for a long time, not far from here. What if he comes? I asked. Seeing his daughter in a coma, her father might decide to take her back by force. Don't give me back to him. The dragon maiden of the Yangtze River used the last ounce of her strength to say, I really don't want to see him. I nodded to show I understood, and only then did she close her eyes in relief. Before finishing her words, she completely lost consciousness. I did not betray her trust. Picking her up swiftly, I ran through the forest. There was still dense black mist lingering around, but it hadn't spread further, likely it was being controlled in secret by the one in the painting. This mysterious cave seemed to require constant commotion to draw the attention of the heavens, ensuring the demon lord of 9 abysses remained confined within. Thus, the black mist wouldn't spread too far. Other sects might come and fortify the formation,
but that wasn't my concern. An hour later, still carrying the Dragon Maiden, I emerged from the woods.
I had considered asking Lightning Bamboo to help me fly, but absorbing celestial energy was no trivial matter. She needed to fully recover first. Following her direction, after half a day of travel, I reached a small stone house near a mountain stream. Carrying her inside, I noticed the place was covered in dust, clearly abandoned for quite some time. I laid her on the bed. She remained unconscious, but she was enveloped in a faint glow, clearly healing herself. The wounds on her arm were beginning to close.
Relieved, I began preparing to look for Guame.
Before leaving, I intended to set up a protective formation to ensure her safety while she recovered. Just as I was about to take action, I noticed her clutching her chest tightly and then vomiting blood. Alarmed, I realized her injuries were far worse than I had thought. Checking her wrist, I found her vitality plummeting. She was in critical condition.
She might die here.
Without hesitation, I changed my plan and channeled all my yang energy into her, withholding nothing, hoping to stabilize her injuries.
If this failed, the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden wouldn't make it.
She had gotten hurt because of me. She took 3 strikes from the being in the painting to shield me.
How could I simply stand by and let her perish before my eyes?
In less than 10 minutes, I had emptied myself of yang energy. I collapsed to the ground, completely drained, barely able to breathe. On the bed, she no longer coughed up blood. Her breathing had steadied, and spiritual light coated her body more thickly now. For the moment, her injuries were under control.
Finally, I breathed a sigh of relief. She was safe.
Exhausted, I planned to rest and recover some yang energy. Any longer without it, and I wouldn't last. You take the bed, I'll sleep on the floor. And just so you know, I haven't touched you. Just as I closed my eyes, Lightning Bamboo began buzzing in alarm. Though still unconscious, she instinctively warned of approaching danger. I scrambled to my feet but collapsed again. My legs had gone weak. Having just drained myself of yang energy in that emergency, I began to panic, struggling to stand. Suddenly, with a loud bang, the door was kicked open. Raising my head, I saw a tall man standing in the doorway. His fierce presence made it hard for me to even stand upright. I nearly collapsed from the pressure. I steadied myself as best I could, staring at him. With surprise, I froze. He bore a striking resemblance to the Dragon Maiden, almost like they were carved from the same mold. Could this be her father? He glared coldly at her lying unconscious on the bed, bypassing me entirely as if I wasn't even there. Without a word, he strode inside. Forcing myself upright, I was stunned. Electric Bamboo had only just sounded its warning, and her father was already here. Before losing consciousness, the Dragon Maiden had used her remaining strength to make me promise not to let her father take her. I had given her my word, and she had closed her eyes peacefully. Now, no matter what, I had to stop him. If he took her away, and the first person she saw upon waking wasn't me but the one she least wanted to face, her father, she would likely despise me forever, never trusting me again. Unsteady on my feet, I stumbled toward him. He said nothing, his gaze fixated on her for over 10 seconds, his expression cold and detached, as if he were staring at an injured stranger. Despite her grave injuries, there was no trace of sorrow or pity in his demeanor. Could someone so heartless really be her father? He wasn't a stranger, nor just another passerby. How could he be so unfeeling? His eyes brimmed with disdain, not toward a rogue or enemy, but toward his own daughter. It was no wonder she didn't want to see him. If it were me, I wouldn't want to face such a cold, cruel father either. Why had he come? What did he want? I could only imagine what her childhood must have been like, growing up with a father who resented her. How could she have been happy? Not only had he likely scolded and punished her, but he had also neglected her and treated her with indifference. Maybe, in some ways, the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden and I had endured the same cold indifference and rejection in our early years. Looking at her unconscious form on the bed, an aching sense of sympathy stirred in me. The Dragon Maiden's father coldly stared at me for a full minute, then shook his head indifferently. That look, I knew it too well. He was blaming the Yangtze Dragon Maiden for disgracing him. His daughter was gravely injured, and yet, all he cared about was his own pride? Ridiculous. He reached out and roughly scooped up the unconscious Dragon Maiden, his expression full of disdain. Where was he taking her? I hurried to stop him. You can't take her. Panic filled me. My yang energy was thin and recovering too slowly. Dragging my weakened body, I struggled to block his path. I had made a promise to the Yangtze Dragon Maiden, and I had to keep it. Put her down. I fixed my gaze on him with all the strength I could muster. He ignored me entirely and continued walking. Arrogant. Completely dismissive. I gritted my teeth and shouted, "Put her down." Boom. He didn't even glance back, clearly holding me in contempt. I started to chase him, but a surge of pressure radiated from him, knocking me to the ground. It felt like every bone in my body was shattered. Biting down hard, I pinched my thigh to bring myself out of the haze of pain. Staggering to my feet, I limped after him with all my might. "Stop right there!" I growled low. He stood with his back to me, his aura icy and piercing to the bone. The very air around him seemed to freeze in time. I knew his power was overwhelming, but I couldn't allow myself to feel fear. The Yangtze Dragon Maiden trusted me enough to collapse. I couldn't let her down. The Dragon Maiden, before she fell unconscious, instructed me not to let you take her. Put her down. My gaze was icy as I drew the Thunderstrike bamboo sword. The blade was still absorbing celestial energy, but there was no time to wait. Urgency left me no choice. I had to protect her to ensure she didn't hold me in contempt. With a thunderous flash, the blade slashed outward. Still, he didn't turn. The force of his aura rippled outward like a tidal wave. Pressing my hand against the doorframe, I held myself steady against the shuddering impact, struggling to absorb as much yang energy as possible. It was a pitifully small amount. I had no retreat, no escape. I had to muster every ounce of strength just to build up my yang energy and prepare the binding technique taught by the painting spirit. It was my only chance to stop him. But first, I had to get closer. With every step forward, I felt as though 10 invisible hands were shoving me backward. I knew it shouldn't feel this difficult when my yang energy was at full strength. Lesson learned. Next time, I'll keep at least a tenth of my energy reserved for emergencies. 10 meters away now, he glanced at me out of the corner of his eye, disdain flickering in his cold smirk. "You're her advisor? A worthless creature like you can't even get within 20 steps of me. You and she are both trash. After today, never see her again, or I'll make sure you die without a grave to rest in." With that, he began floating upward, the Dragon Maiden still in his arms, as if preparing to leave. Seeing this, I summoned all the energy I had left and swung the Thunderstrike bamboo sword. Execution slash! The sword's aura surged outward, but he only tightened his fist and brought it crashing down. His fist collided with the sword light, unleashing a shockwave. Though he had expected a simple confrontation, the blow left a dent in his dragon scales, even drew blood. He frowned, his expression flashing with surprise. He hadn't anticipated that my meager attack could breach his armor. Seizing my chance, I pursued him, my teeth gritted. Underestimating me? Thinking to use bare flesh against my sword's glow? Fine, let me give you more than you can handle. I swung again and again, 3-4 waves of sword energy crashing toward him. His face darkened as he parried with one arm, reluctant to loosen his hold on the Dragon Maiden. Each punch collided with the sword streaks, sparks scattering as the clashes rang out. I could see the anger boiling in him, his aura surging in fury. He finally shattered the sword energy with a powerful blow. Blood dripping from a clawed hand, he locked his gaze on the Thunderstrike bamboo sword in my grip. I didn't let up. Shoving my hand into my pocket, I drew out the full collection of talismans, the ones Cyclops and the others had given me, and flung them all forward in one swift motion. In an instant, the sky was filled with fluttering talismans, trembling before erupting into cascading bursts of spiritual light. One by one, explosions rippled across the Dragon Maiden's father's path like a chain of firecrackers, enveloping him in a massive inferno. Flames roared and surged, painting the horizon with a blazing mushroom cloud. For the first time, his icy expression cracked, shock flashing briefly across his face. He hadn't expected me to unleash all 100 talismans in a single move. No one would consider this anything less than overkill. The firestorm engulfed him. Even as he worked to protect the Dragon Maiden with a shielding spell, his free hand was forced to fend off the cascading explosions. With flames consuming everything around him, I seized the opportunity to launch 3 more strikes, sending sword light streaking into the inferno. At the same time, I inched closer, yang energy surging as it gathered within me. Boom! His levitation faltered, forcing him to drop back to the ground. As the fires dissipated, the ground was left scorched and cratered, scarred from the battle. Though he didn't appear entirely disheveled, the composure he had displayed earlier was noticeably gone. His dragon scales had dulled, especially on the hand he had used to deflect the sword light, now bloodied and visibly wounded. Thankfully, the Dragon Maiden was unharmed. "You, this worthless wretch, actually managed to make me suffer a setback?" His chilling voice rang out, dripping with malice. "I had considered sparing you. But now, you've chosen your death. Good. I had provoked him, that was exactly what I wanted. Come closer." The binding technique was ready, coiled and bubbling beneath my fingertips. I clutched the Thunderstrike bamboo sword tightly with one hand and reached into my pocket with the other, retrieving 10 colorfully diverse pills. These were Cyclops and his allies' prized possessions, rare pills refined over centuries of effort.
They couldn't rival the Dragon Maiden's father in terms of raw strength, but they were far from useless. Before he could react, I swallowed all 10 pills in one go, leaving him momentarily stunned. So, that's why he was so shocked. As the elixir entered my body, it felt like molten lava flowed through my throat and stomach. The 10 medicinal forces clashed violently, and my eyes instantly turned blood red. The blood vessels all over my body seemed like they were going to burst. The veins on my hands bulged as I experienced both pain and exhilaration. The potency of 10 elixirs was no small matter. I felt my strength surge, but I didn't rush to attack. I knew that relying on the elixirs alone wouldn't be enough to defeat him. I needed an opportunity for a decisive strike. Forced consumption of elixirs came with severe side effects. Once the effects subsided, I'd suffer significant energy depletion. "You're nothing but a mad dog," he said coldly. I gradually approached him, locking onto his acupoints when I closed the distance to 6 meters. The figure in the painting had taught me this. Using yang energy to suppress acupoints could block the flow of blood and render someone immobile. 5 meters, 4 meters. He held the Dragon Maiden in one arm, cutting his strength at least in half. I had an even greater chance. He sneered, "You took an elixir and expect to put up a fight with that little strength? Pathetic. Let's see what you've got." His eyes were filled with disdain, looking down on me as though I was nothing. Earlier, I had managed to put him at a disadvantage, yet he was still underestimating me? Then I'd show him my true capability. At 4 meters away, he sneered again. A protective aura flickered around him as he prepared to face me head-on. Conventional attacks would indeed struggle to break through both his protective aura and dragon scales, but my immobilization technique could bypass them entirely. The key was a sudden, unexpected strike. If it landed, he wouldn't be able to move a muscle. This was a modified celestial technique. "Come on, let's see your sneak attack. Show me what a mutt like you can do," he taunted, clenching his fist, ready to strike me down in an instant. I gathered all my yang energy at my fingertips, silently chanting the immobilization incantation. Yang energy turned invisible. I extended a finger. Fueled by the elixir, my movements were blindingly fast. The yang energy shot out. The Dragon Maiden's father sneered, "That's it? A mere gathering of chi? Die. I'll smash through your petty tricks with one punch," he roared. His fist tightened and came crashing down, emitting an explosive sound that radiated destructive power. But to his surprise, the incantation-powered yang energy pierced straight through his seemingly indestructible fist. Absolutely miraculous. The sneer froze on his face. "What is this?" Before he could react further, the yang energy had already struck one of his acupoints. The Dragon Maiden's father froze on the spot, his face filled with shock. The condescension in his gaze vanished entirely. It was clear he had never encountered such an eerie technique before. His high and mighty confidence had been utterly disrupted by this strange immobilization. I was ecstatic. As expected, this technique could bypass everything. Anyone who didn't understand this art would fall victim to it. Of course, he was holding the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden and could only use one arm, so his full power wasn't utilized, which allowed me to immobilize him in one move. Seizing the moment, I thrust the Thunderstrike bamboo sword toward his heart. The Dragon Maiden's father widened his eyes and struggled desperately. Squelch! The sword pierced his garments, sending sparks flying as it broke through his dragon scales. I stabbed him again with all my strength. I didn't want to kill him. He was the father of the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden. Despite our conflict, this wasn't yet a fight to the death. My goal was to incapacitate him, ensuring he couldn't take the Dragon Maiden away. The second stab went in. He stared at me, incredulous. Never in his life had he experienced such humiliation, being at someone's mercy. Squelch! Blood gushed out as a third strike penetrated an inch into his heart, and I paused. His face immediately turned pale, his breathing shallow and rapid. His life now hung by a thread. He was gravely injured. I locked eyes with his wide, stunned gaze and pressed the sword closer. "You're not taking the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden away today." That final strike seemed to unnerve him as his eyes darted around frantically, watching the sword inch closer to his eyes. His gaze turned blood red, and he let out a feral growl, clearly activating a powerful move to break free from the immobilization. With a massive expenditure of energy, his entire body emitted crackling sounds as he struggled to break the hold. Taking the opportunity, I snatched the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden from his grasp, but he clung to her tightly. Suddenly, a flash of light surrounded him, and in the blink of an eye, he retreated 10 meters. I faintly caught sight of him still clutching someone as he moved. Looking down, I realized the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden was already in my arms. I was stunned. He looked as though he'd barely escaped from death. Cold sweat drenched his forehead, and blood poured heavily from his chest. Overcome with rage, he spat out a mouthful of blood. "How could someone like you injure me? What trick did you use just now?" His fury consumed him, his expression grotesque beyond description. Previously, he had carried the air of a cold, noble elite. Now, he looked like a disgraced businessman teetering on bankruptcy, utterly wretched. "Leave!" I shouted, clutching the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden, finally feeling reassured. But I soon realized something: she had become far lighter. He glared at me with an intense gaze, watching my every move as I readied myself for another immobilization strike. In truth, I no longer had the strength to use it. The effects of the elixir were nearly exhausted, leaving my veins feeling like they were being torn apart, my yang energy draining rapidly. I was running on fumes. And so was he. His heart was pierced, and his life was in grave danger. His physical body was almost invincible in the mortal realm, but unfortunately for him, he crossed paths with my Thunderstrike bamboo sword imbued with celestial energy and my newfound immobilization technique. This is the third segment out of 118. Below is the processed content based on the original structure, format, and layout you provided. I'll remember you. His eyes were bloodshot as he shot me a vicious glare before turning to drag his injured self away. I heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the unconscious Yangtze River Dragon Maiden, I murmured, "I did it. Everything's okay." I quickly carried her into the house. Restoring her yang energy was the priority. Just as I laid her gently on the bed, her body suddenly dispersed in a billowing cloud, dissolving into smoke. All that remained was a dull stand-in charm lying on the bed. In the end, he had replaced the real Yangtze River Dragon Maiden. I collapsed onto the floor, my body racked with a pain as sharp and gnawing as ants crawling through my veins. I hadn't fulfilled my promise to her. That weighed on my heart like a stone. It was exhaustion, both physical and emotional. I pictured her waking up, only to first see not me, but the person she loathed most, her father. Her initial reaction would undoubtedly be shock, followed by bitter disappointment. I could already imagine it. Next time we met, she'd completely ignore me or, worse, unleash her anger on me. I forced a bitter smile. The only consolation was knowing she wouldn't be in danger. As much as her father disliked her, surely he wouldn't harm her with his own hands. This might actually be for the best. Stay with your father, for now. It's the safest place you can be until the immortals arrive. To be with me, not only would it hinder your recovery, it would endanger you. You're better off going with him. I muttered mockingly to myself. Pain overwhelmed me, and the exhaustion finally dragged me under as I succumbed to sleep. I had no idea how long I was out, but I awoke to the sensation of transformation. Pain vanished, my yin energy replenished, strength returning. I snapped open my eyes and leapt to my feet. The first thing I did was check the time. I had been unconscious for 7 days and nights. I felt a pang of heartache mixed with helplessness. The depletion from this ordeal had been severe. Lucky to even have survived, let alone woken up. There were still over 20 days until the arrival of the immortals, yet I sat laden with frustration and at a complete loss for what to do. However, as I focused inward, I noticed something remarkable. Despite losing 7 days, my body had made clear progress. The yin energy coursing inside me had multiplied, and the inner core in my dantian had grown to twice its previous size. It now resembled a rough, unpolished cobblestone, faintly glowing with a unique aura. That energy, it was demonic, exceptionally pure and incredibly powerful. The room was thick with the dense presence of demon energy, proof that my inner course changes had caused it to overflow over the past 7 days. Luckily, I hadn't encountered any righteous cultivators, otherwise, I might have been exorcised in my sleep. It stunned me how this small inner core could radiate a demonic power surpassing that of demons who'd lived hundreds, even thousands of years. Could it be the legacy of my mother's bloodline? But mother was just an ordinary, albeit beautiful, human. The thought left me puzzled. As a half-dragon, half-demon, I'd never felt the presence of demon energy before. This was the first time I'd sensed it within me, and the feeling was strange. I tried channeling the demon energy stored in the core, discovering that its flow was both domineering and imbued with an otherworldly nature. This explained why so many demons were known for their violent tendencies. It was the sway of their energy. If I used demon energy to fuel my slay arts, how much stronger would they become? The possibilities stirred a spark of anticipation. Perhaps the dragonkin's near-death state truly held latent potential for dramatic growth. Once my physical condition had stabilized, I checked on the state of the Thunderstrike bamboo. The celestial brush it had formed had now returned to being an ordinary brush, its celestial aura spent entirely. But the bamboo itself emitted a dazzling, golden-threaded green glow, its transformation nothing short of breathtaking. The refinement was monumental. This single infusion of celestial energy had elevated the thunderstrike bamboo by 3,000 or 4,000 years in cultivation. Seeing its astonishing growth, I couldn't hide my elation. Yet I refrained from interrupting its ongoing state of absorption. After ensuring every trace of demon energy was repressed and contained, I finally stepped out of the room. I cast one last glance back at the place where the Yangtze River Dragon Maiden had once rested. 7 days had passed, surely, by now, she had awakened. Had she already given up on me completely? I let out a resigned laugh, composed myself, and fixed my destination in mind as I began my journey toward the Yangtze River. With the demon energy's reinforcement, my speed had doubled, my movements now effortless and swift as wind. I flew through the dense forest, my steps light yet lethal as if embodying the essence of a killing shadow. Emerging onto the road, I waited for a vehicle to pass. Before long, a bus pulled up, and I flagged it down, boarding to find it crowded with passengers, among them a few spiritual practitioners. Their cultivation was unimpressive, nowhere near sharp enough to realize I was one of their kind. I slipped quietly into the seat behind them. This wasn't the time to search for Guame. I intended to head straight for the Yangtze River, where the Dragon Maiden's vessel surely remained. After all, she was no longer the River King of the Yangtze. Not anymore. The passengers chattered on, mentioning that 7 days ago, all the soul lamps of the 8 major sect leaders had extinguished simultaneously. That signaled that all 8 cult leaders had perished at once, leaving their sects leaderless. 3 of those sects had collapsed into infighting over succession, some members even setting up martial arts tournaments to decide by skill. Might made right. In just 1 day, those sects had suffered over 100 casualties. The remaining 5 sects had managed smoother transitions, quickly appointing new leaders. Together, the 8 great sects formed an alliance. Their single vow? To hunt down the culprit behind the deaths of their leaders. As I listened, a mocking smile crept across my lips. There was also news of strange occurrences around a mysterious cave entrance. Several areas had come under attack by strange forces, with casualties skyrocketing, over 1,000 people affected. My eyes glinted sharply. It dawned on me that, during my 7-day slumber, chaos had engulfed the mortal realm. Disaster after disaster had unfolded. What amused me was the plight of the Yellow River Dragon King. I heard the Yellow River Dragon King is getting replaced. Really? No way. Did his wife get stolen during the wedding, so he just quit? No, they say fate decreed he messed up big time and is about to be executed. Someone else is taking the throne. Execution? That's huge news. Honestly, he was never good at the job anyway. Looked doomed from the start. Who's the new Dragon King gonna be? Probably his daughter. Upon hearing this, I couldn't hold back a laugh. The Yellow River Dragon King was even worse off than I was, failing to overcome his tribulation, becoming a dead man walking, and losing his throne. He's probably hiding somewhere right now like a stray dog. Speaking of the new Dragon King, turns out it's Dragon Shiyu following in her father's footsteps, which kind of makes sense. But her skills aren't strong enough. How is she going to keep the monsters in the Yellow River in check? Plus, her frail body? The other creatures definitely won't submit to her authority, and it'd be dangerous for her. Since she's the new Dragon King, she'll probably host a coronation ceremony to announce it to everyone. That's how Dragon Kings and mountain deities have always done it. I felt a bit torn, debating whether or not I should show up. As I wrestled with this in my mind, some even more infuriating news came up. Did you hear? The new Dragon King of the Yangtze River is getting crowned today. A female Dragon King, no less. Her name's Guame. That sent my temper through the roof. How could Guame get so lucky? She's already benefited from accidentally acquiring celestial energy, awakening a phoenix destiny, and now she gets to take the throne as the Yangtze River Dragon Queen? I once asked the Thunder Mother about this, but before I could get a proper answer, this happened. I never saw it coming. A phoenix destiny like hers, it's completely overpowered. Coincidentally, I was planning to visit the place where the previous Yangtze River Dragon Queen Dr. Boat to find her. Now I can just head straight to her coronation. I'll turn her ceremony into a bloody mess. The dragon blood she carries, including what she's stolen from others, today, I'm taking it back. They, meanwhile, continued to gossip about this new Dragon King Guame, knowing nothing about who she really was. They hadn't even heard of her before. Because she's just the lucky one who rewrote her fate by borrowing my dragon blood. Lately, she's been announcing herself as having a phoenix destiny and claiming it took years of effort and cultivation to achieve her current standing, her words dripping with self-promotion. She hasn't even ascended the throne yet and already wants to glorify herself. All I feel is ridicule. Guame wants to make a grand ascension, but I won't let her. I'll expose her for using me to cheat her way into this destiny. The last Yangtze River Dragon King was doing fine, wasn't he? Everyone seemed to like him. Why is he suddenly gone? Who knows? Both Dragon Kings running into trouble. Seems the Dragon Clan is under some kind of tribulation. Apparently, Guomei is holding a selection for her husband on the day of her coronation. What's that supposed to mean? She's planning to find the perfect mortal man to become her consort. Sounds like she's trying to prove she's stronger than any man and can only take one as a boy toy. Hearing that, I let out a cold laugh that turned into outright mockery. Guomei has utterly let herself go like an emperor from ancient times picking concubines, except she's out here choosing male consorts.
Using celestial energy to ascend, completely unrestrained in her desires. Step 1 involves choosing male consorts.
If the previous Yangtze Dragon Queen could see this, I wonder if she'd laugh or cry. Can we join the selection process, too? Are you out of your mind? She'd never go for one of us.
She wants tall, young, powerful men with incredible skills.
Men like that are few and far between. It definitely wouldn't be us.
Ugh, true that. Perfect guys like that are way too rare. I'm just curious to see what kind of man could possibly meet her standards.
As I listened to the few of them chatter ahead of me, I felt a wave of mixed emotions. Who fits her ideal? I couldn't care less.
She's never like me, so I'm clearly out of the running. Otherwise, she would have married me ages ago. The only thing I want to do now is get close to her and reclaim the dragon blood. But then, what they said next turned my expression dark.
Oh yeah, remember that guy who showed up at the Yellow River Dragon King's wedding? He's probably a good match for the new Dragon Queen. You mean him? Damn, how did I forget?
He stole the show that day, snatched the bride right out of the Dragon King's hands.
Legendary move. He's got guts and talent. He's the definition of a perfect man.
For a while, he became the ultimate man's role model, doing all the things we'd never dare to. Too bad he disappeared right after.
No one's seen him since. Who knows where he is now? If he shows up at Guomei's coronation, with his reputation, she'll definitely choose him. Listening to their chatter, I could only shake my head.
Back when I caused an uproar at the Yellow River Dragon King's wedding and became famous overnight, it seemed normal.
But to think they're still talking about me even now, should I laugh or sigh? Their conversation escalated into absurdity.
They even speculated that I had a thing for Guomei, claiming we were a match made in heaven. They hoped I'd show up today to sweep her off her feet. How ridiculous.
The nonsense gave me a headache. Suddenly, a girl about 15 or 16 sitting nearby turned to me. Hey, want me to read your fortune? It's free. No, thanks, I replied, shaking my head.
She wasn't even as capable as I was at 5 years old.
No way her fortune-telling would be accurate. I wouldn't waste my time.
She probably just wanted to use a live subject to practice her readings.
Come on, I'm doing it for free.
The girl's face was full of anticipation. You've been sulking and away from home for a while now. You should let it go and go visit your family, I said as the vehicle came to a stop. I stood up, ready to get off. She froze, staring at me in surprise.
How did you know I left home because I was mad?
Just go back. Your mother's not well, I said, stepping off the bus.
How do you know my mom's sick? Are you a fortune teller too? I didn't notice earlier.
Hey! She called out, chasing after me. Waving her off, I said, go home.
Don't hold grudges overnight with your family.
You've got a mother who loves you, cherish her.
Are you someone important? My name's Zhang Kiki.
What's yours?
We're both in this line of work, how about getting acquainted?
Her voice trailed behind me.
Long Shiba, Dragon 18, I replied offhandedly, hailing a cab. Oh my god, he's Long Shiba. The one they were just talking about?
He's incredible, so mysterious. Her shocked voice echoed from behind as I got into the cab and headed for Guomei's coronation ceremony. 2 hours later, the driver pulled the car to a stop.
I paid and got out.
I was now standing on the bank of the Yangtze River. Parked along the shoreline was a long lineup of luxury cars as far as the eye could see. Some of these vehicles were already empty, and men were stepping out one by one. They were from within the ranks, some highly skilled, some less so, but all were strikingly handsome. Their glowing, expectant expressions betrayed their intentions. Clearly, they were here to present themselves as suitors, hoping to win Guomei's favor. Normally, you wouldn't see this many people at a Dragon King ceremony, but the allure of marrying the new Dragon Queen was evidently irresistible, speaking volumes about their ambitions.
Most of the crowd was younger men.
The older folks probably felt embarrassed to show up, given that an event branded as a coronation was, in truth, nothing more than a bride selection contest. It was enough to scare off plenty of potential attendees.
I smirked.
Guomei was as flashy as ever, flaunting her status without discretion but in grand, high-profile showmanship. A red carpet floated atop the river's surface, leading from the shore over to a lavish palace at its far end. Guame sat on her newly claimed dragon throne, making a deliberate spectacle that ensured everyone took notice. The platform occupied half the palace's structure, and quite a crowd had already gathered. I suspected this palace was an artifact brought into being through magic. A bad feeling passed through me. By all logic, she shouldn't have such power. It had only been a few months since I last saw her. How had she leveled up this drastically as if gifted supernatural hacks? Could it really be her Phoenix destiny shining through? Or was someone backing her, propping her up for their own ends?